Hello, my friends. This is the podcast that brings the wealth of knowledge, expertise, and fun of Twin Smoke Shop, New England's premier smoke shop, right to you, wherever you are, whenever you want it. And that's not just blowing smoke. You can find us at our website, notjustblowingsmoke.com, and be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Not Just Blowing Smoke.
Cool breeze in my head, bittersweet smoke flying through the air. It's the way I feel, smoking on a fat cigar.
The Not Just Blowing Smoke. Hi, everybody. If things went well and Dave did what he was supposed to do, that would have been Fat Cigar you were listening to. Hopefully you heard it.
I think your initial intro, nobody heard.
Yeah.
No, your initial. They heard Fat Cigar.
I don't know. How do I know? I mean, if one
Because
didn't
I'm
happen,
telling
maybe
you.
the other didn't happen.
Of course it did.
No?
Maybe this isn't happening.
Maybe this isn't happening.
Maybe this
Maybe
is-
you're not here, Dave.
There is no
That would
objective
be
reality.
Maybe
Wonderful.
this is the Matrix. Maybe this is the real Matrix.
Maybe. Whatever it is,
Fifth-dimensionally.
we're not just blowing smoke. And we're coming at you live from Twin Smoke Shop Studio headquarters in Londonderry, New Hampshire. Be sure you subscribe to us wherever you're watching, whether it's Facebook or YouTube or Podbean or iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon, I don't know. But we're everywhere. So wherever you got it, make sure you hit that subscribe button that's right below us. And that way you'll be sure never to miss a thing. I'm Pastor Padron, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Pat and Nick and Dave, and we have a very special guest.
The
with us
Warlock
tonight.
has returned.
The Warlock has returned.
Absolutely.
Kaz Walters from the DC Distribution Group. What exactly that is, no one's really sure.
It's a secret. You'd have to be part of the Warlock Order to know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I think it has some. Well, I won't go there. Okay. So, we're glad to have Kaz with us tonight. He's all the way from, where's it? Timbuktu,
Pretty much. South Carolina.
South Carolina. I was close. Sort. No.
I mean,
I told
Way
you
down south.
I told you I was going to be punchy tonight.
Way down south.
I don't know. Like, Timbuktu's in Africa, and that's across the Atlantic, so I don't know. It may be directly across the Atlantic from South Carolina. I don't know.
Whatever. Okay, so we are starting off tonight smoking this beautiful cigar. It is a Plasencia Cosecha. Is that how you pronounce it? Do you know, Nick? Cosecha.
Cosecha.
Cosecha. Cosecha. It's one of those.
Cosecha.
Cosecha.
The Cosecha.
I want to smoke your Cosecha.
I bet you do. All night long.
This is the Cosecha 149 La Vega. That I know I can pronounce. La Vega
There you go.
is La Vega.
His Spanish is getting better as the show goes on.
Thank you. Thank you. It's one of those things. I think we just lost everybody. Anyway, it's a Nicaraguan Puro, and 149 means that this is the 149th crop
Yep.
that Aganorsa collected. They saved the best of that tobacco to make this series of cigars. Once that tobacco's gone, the cigar will be gone.
Hopefully it'll be like 152.
Okay.
Yeah, I have questions.
Gave Plasencia
I'm glad you
tobacco.
have questions, Pat.
Is it Aganosa?
It's Plasencia.
Plasencia. Did I say Aganorsa?
You said Aganorsa.
Yeah, I thought-
Plasencia.
All right.
I could be wrong. Isn't this a Honduran Puro?
No, it's Nicaraguan pure.
I thought it was all Honduran.
I could be wrong.
All right. Somebody fact check it, please.
Fact check here. We go.
500 hours in, Pastor Padron is starting to lose it.
Goodness.
Well, it's been a long day, hasn't it, Danny?
And then fun
been a
fact
long
while he's
few
looking is, I'm going to butcher it, but Cosecha Privada means private harvest.
Yeah.
English.
It's the harvest of, it's the 149th harvest or crop of that Plasencia has made.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Any
What does
relation
it
to
say,
the...
Dave?
So first, all Honduran cigar.
Oh,
Okay. All right.
very nice.
I completely butchered
So,
everything so
wrapper,
far.
binder, and filler are Honduran. Yep.
Beautiful. Now, does this have any correlation to the 146 that we had before? I'm assuming that
146 was the 146th
that was-
crop,
Yep.
but That's all that means.
That's
that
all
means.
gone now.
That's all that means. Yeah.
And
Yep,
we are
Once
at
those are gone, those are
149.
gone. Yep.
It is a full-bodied, medium to full-strength cigar balanced by distinct tones of cream, dark chocolate, and a subtle yet earthy hint of cedar.
Well, do you all agree with that so far? First light?
So far, yeah.
Totally getting the
So
chocolate.
far. Now, Danny, we had a discussion earlier today about
Yep.
the size. There was 3 sizes that we had in the
Yes.
shop, and we have I guess the Churchill size or the Toro Gordo, whatnot.
There's
or the
there's
Toro.
like a fat Robusto. It's like
Yep.
a 1/4 inch smaller than this, but
yeah.
Several ring gauges larger. And then there's a Toro.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd had the shorter,
The short.
fat one.
Yep.
And
short, fat
really
Robusto.
enjoyed that. You
I
had
did
both,
too.
I guess, but thought
I-
this was going to add a little bit more.
I think this
Zip.
one. Yeah, I think this one has a little bit more fullness, a little bit more flavor to give the user, in so to speak. I had the short fat Robusto. I love that little size, and it was a good cigar. This one for me just holds so much more flavor. There's another depth of flavor to me with this cigar versus that other one. I think it's just it wants to give you more, but it's not there.
Yeah.
This one, I think maybe because of the size, it's just there's a lot of flavor going on here.
A lot of flavor, but it's not overpowering. Like it's
Right.
satisfying.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just the perfect amount
Makes
to be a full.
Makes your mouth water a little bit.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And we're pairing this with something that Kaz suggested, the Diplomatico rum.
I'm a rum guy.
You're a rum guy.
I love
so
rum.
I'm assuming you know about this rum.
Yeah, it's a Venezuelan rum. It's most guys who enjoy rum are familiar with it. I mean, it's not an
Can girls not
esoteric-
enjoy rum?
Sorry,
Girls can't enjoy rum?
no.
No.
Which means you
Absolutely
can't
not.
have any.
Oh.
Shots fired. Shots fired.
Tight pants.
I don't have anything to say back.
But no, anybody who's tried rums neat or wanted something a little special has probably tried Diplomatico. It's a nice quality rum, but it's still accessible.
Yes.
And it's just got a really nice complexity without being something you have to study. It's rich. It's got a nice sweetness, but without being cloying. And I thought it would be a really good match for not only this, but for the pipe tobacco we're going to try later.
Yep.
I think Cass hit it right on the head here, because that sweetness, that subtle sweetness that you get from the rum, it comes through in the cigar really, really well. It's not overpowering. It's really a nice.
It's a great compliment to
It's
it.
a nice complementing pairing.
What I also like about Diplomatico is that while it's it's a straight rum, we're drinking this neat. It doesn't have that fire or that burn that kind of kills your palate like you sometimes experience with some rums.
You can. Some of the rums that I've had a lot of experience with are a lot of the family reserves from Bacardi. I go to the island, I go to the factory tours. I've been going down there for the past 16, 17 years, and a lot of the rums that I get are their family reserves or the reservas, which you can get a lot of that. But if you go, you do the 4-year or the 8-year, you can kind of get more of that sugarcane molasses taste in there, which you can get in a lot of rums, a lot of younger rums, but and it's a kind of a shame that you have to go to the island, you have to go to the factory to get those family reserves, because the family reserves, I mean, are really on par with this, if not a little bit better, a little bit more refined.
Sure.
And they age their rum in Jack Daniel's barrels.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they buy. If you go on the tour, if you're ever down there in Puerto Rico and you go on a Bacardi tour, you see when you're going on the tour, you see all their barrels, and it all says Jack Daniel's, and they age their rum in Jack Daniel's barrels.
Nice.
They buy them already charred, already used up, and they age their rum in barrels.
Fascinating.
That is cool.
That's very cool. So,
Do we have anything else to say about the cigar and the pairing before we move on to our major topics for tonight?
I can do what I get from the cigar breakdown of it.
Sure.
So first, I like the size. It has like that nice kind of firm box press that you get in the top Plasencia line. So I
Yep.
think if you're a Plasencia smoker, this is, it has that same feel to it, same quality feel. The smoke itself is pretty unique. I'm still trying to kind of hammer it down. It smokes more like a Nicaraguan. So, but it's all Honduran. It's interesting because like it really has a unique mouthfeel. So when you draw from the cigar, the initial impression on your palate is it really dries it out. But then there's this saltiness to it through the finish that kind of gets you to start salivating again.
Yeah.
And then you have the first time I ever picked out redwood in a cigar was when I smoked the Alma Forte. This cigar has like that really dry redwood to it. And then you get some, I'll call it's like an in-between of like a black and a brown pepper. It's like, I think on the draw it has like that stimulation of black pepper, and then on the finish it kind of goes to more of that savory kind of baker's brown pepper. And then there's a nice kind of chocolate sweetness that just coats the interior of your palate, and that saltiness is more to the exterior. And then there's a little bit of leather that stays on the back of my throat through the finish. And I haven't had the drink yet, so I can't really speak to that, but...
So I get everything you're describing, but when you mix it with the rum, it's almost, and this may be a lowbrow comparison to what you described, but when you take that flavor profile and you mix it, what you get with the rum, it's almost like eating the burnt corners when you make a pan of brownies. Like there's that.
I got you on that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
That the rum really brings that forward.
It brings
right
the
at the
sweetness
end.
out, yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. That's very nice, Kaz.
But no, I get what you're saying with the mouthfeel. Like there is incredible like flavor, what we were describing, but also there's a lot of body without being overwhelming.
It's
But
definitely a full body smoke.
it's very creamy, very rich on the palate.
Yeah.
That's it's really satisfying.
And you know what I love about this cigar, Danny, and Pat, and Kaz, and Dave?
What?
Dave, you all right?
Yep.
It's like mid-range for Plasencia. I mean, as far as price goes. I mean, this one goes for $13.99. I mean, for the type of flavor and everything, it punches way above its price range. I mean, I'd be definitely comfortable paying $17, $18 for the cigar.
Sure.
And I mean, at this price point, I mean, it is just a fantastic smoke.
It's a
all the way
gorgeous
around.
looking cigar.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the wrapper's flawless. It's got this great oily matte sheen to it. It's really, really good.
There's almost a redness to it.
Goes with that
Yes.
redwood kind of
That it does.
Can I say something? Now, I completely screwed up with the origins of the cigar. That's
You
my
did?
bad. Totally. Now, that said,
Yes.
I don't know that I would have guessed that this was a Honduran cigar.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't smoke like it.
It doesn't smoke or taste like it to me at all.
No.
Am I just trying to cover my ass, or
Yes,
Yeah,
but you're right.
Yeah, definitely trying to cover your ass. But I would definitely agree with you there. You know, a lot of the cigars are Nicaraguan based and Nicaraguan tobacco, so it definitely comes off as a Nicaraguan puro.
But I mean, just because you roll a lot of Nicaraguan cigars doesn't mean. I don't understand why this doesn't taste like other Honduran cigars that I love Honduran tobacco.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm
You're not saying it's better than, but it's not.
I'm just saying that I'm
expected profile.
surprised. Yeah, this is Honduran tobacco. I'm surprised.
Yeah, it definitely smokes more Nicaraguan, maybe a medium body to medium plus Nicaraguan cigar. And then when you look at the literature, it's all Honduran. It's a Honduran puro, and it's smoking the body on it. It's just so beautiful.
Yeah,
It's so full.
it's
nice.
really, really nice. I love this.
And adding to that, I'm sure you guys are experiencing the same, but correct me if you're not.
Nope.
The construction on this is amazing. The draw is fantastic.
Yeah. Look at the bar.
You couldn't expect anything less than from Plasencia.
Sure,
I mean, all their cigars, even down to their entry-level Reserva, is the draw, the construction is immaculate.
Agreed.
so
Like not
creamy,
trying
too.
to imply otherwise, but
Yeah.
like the draw on this is ideal. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
amazing.
It's a perfect draw.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. So one of the things that we wanted to talk about tonight was an article came out that was really interesting. Pat saw it, sent it to me, and we were both kind of like doing what? And basically, it was an article that Half Wheel put out about the funding that's coming up with the FDA, and
there's language in it that is saying we'll give you this money, but no banning of flavored cigars, no banning of flavors in cigarettes, no controlling the amount of nicotine in said products. And it was almost like, what's going on? Is the government actually turning against the FDA on some of the main things that the FDA has been talking about for the last, 7 years since this whole thing started? And Pat, our resident lawyer, is going to kind of summarize it for us, and we'll talk about what this actually means. And has this thing actually gone through yet? Is it still
It's a
just
bill,
a
so
proposal?
it's a proposal. If it does pass into law, then it's gonna look a lot different than it does now. But it's a proposed bill right now. So yeah, generally, I think the formal title is the Committee of Appropriations. Yep. So it's the Committee on Appropriations. This is for the agricultural aspect. So obviously the FDA is going to be a portion of that. So it's really just a spending bill. So where they're going to be allocating taxpayer money to. There is the cigar industry does pay a user's fee too. So that's different funds that's not included. Mm-hmm. Well, this does say how much of those user fees you're going to actually get, but that's not the funding that the government is referring to.
That's not lumped in with taxation.
Right. Yeah, in this article. So it's really it's like 120 pages, and there's 769 sections to it. And the tobacco stuff is the last two sections, section 768 and 769. So they had a hearing for this a few days ago, and I had watched most of the hearing. So I'll kind of give you what my thoughts are on everything at the end of it. But really, basically government spending, when you're obviously given money, there's going to be conditions attached to it on how the purview of what that spending is going to be used for. So if a bill like this passes, there's conditions that you have to meet. So there's the two of the conditions for this spending is that's prevalent to us is first, they say, none of the funds provided by this act or provided from any other account of the Treasury in the United States derived from the collection of fees variable to the agencies funded by this act may be used by the Secretary of Health and Human Services to finalize, issue, implement, administer, or enforce any rule, regulation, or order setting a tobacco product standard that mandates a maximum nicotine level for cigarettes. So that's section 768. And then 769, which is what we are more focused on. The first half of it says the same thing. They may not use this for any regulation, notice of proposed rulemaking, or order setting any tobacco product standard that would prohibit menthol as a characterizing flavor in cigarettes or prohibit characterizing flavors in all cigars and their components and parts. So, obviously, if this went into law today, that essentially saying, there's a lot of questions I'll kind of mention after this with what I have for this, but it would mean that the spending that they have been given, they can't use it to prohibit flavor in cigars. Now, characterizing flavors, I think I'll give the mic to Kaz in a few moments to kind of explain because the pipe tobacco has a lot more knowledge with characterizing flavors, because my research on that's not really extensive. But it's interesting, though, because when you just look at how these bills are made, people take stuff out, put stuff in, it's going to change a bunch. And I was looking at it with Kaz before the show started, and I was saying, characterizing flavor in cigarettes or prohibit characterizing flavors in all cigars and their components and parts. I was like, why would they put "and their components and parts" if they said "in all cigars"? So I feel like they initially said "in all cigars," and then they probably added "and their components and parts," because if you say "in all cigars," you could argue, oh, it's in the cigar, not the outside. So like sugar on the wrapper or an infused wrapper or anything of that sort might not be in there.
Things like that.
But then the question comes is, what is a cigar? I think this bill is using the general understanding of it. They're not obviously using the definition of cigar that the CRA has proposed for option 2 of the deeming rule. But yeah, I'll have Kaz kind of mention what characterizing flavors are, because that's kind of important.
So I feel it is a reasonable assumption for me to make But I'll take, for example, one thing that impacted my particular niche of the industry in recent years is Massachusetts recently, within the past 3 or 4 years, put forth a ban statewide with flavoring.
Right.
And many people interpreted that as just aromatic pipe tobacco, meaning things that were heavily flavored. Think about your vanillas or your cherries or your chocolate pipe tobaccos, where it is, you're not getting so much tobacco flavor as you are getting these applied flavors. Massachusetts didn't actually put it forth as a banning of flavored tobacco or aromatic tobacco. They defined it as a characteristic flavor, and by that they meant a flavor present in the tobacco that was not derived or could not be naturally derived from the tobacco itself.
Okay.
So that, of course, covers anything with that falls under the category of the umbrella of an aromatic tobacco.
Right. Yeah.
But the language was sufficiently vague that you had some suppliers at some blends that it was reasonable to be hesitant to sell it within the confines of the state that didn't have applied flavorings. But there are some that were named for particular beverages or such that didn't have any applied flavorings, but because of the unique blend of tobaccos used, it tasted like how it was named. And it's like, you know what? There's room there for that to be described as a characteristic flavor. And just to play it safe, it was like, that's probably not something we want to market in that state. Okay. So a characteristic flavor, as my understanding of it is that it is a flavor that is not expected or naturally present within tobacco itself. We could get into the weeds as far as like what that even means, because I mean, a Maduro wrapper could be described as a characteristic flavor.
Sure.
But that is what I think that they're trying to cover there, as far as, if it's not tobacco flavored and you're calling it, has a vanilla flavor or a chocolate flavor, and that's not characteristic of tobacco, that would leave room for them to target it. And I think it's them trying to make it very clear that these things can't be targeted.
Yeah. So my quick little 2-second thoughts on it is, so I watched the hearing and everything. So to me, this looks like a conservative bill that's being proposed here. When I listened to it, they did a good job kind of bashing Biden's spending and the economy right now. So, and I was kind of shocked by that. I thought it was going to be kind of like a middle of the ground bill, but a lot of the battleground is, like the cut. It's kind of a cut in funding. Their theme is doing more with little, and the big battleground is they're taking away different. Well, they're not taking away, but they're reducing funding in different support systems. And the big thing is that they're taking money out because since the pandemic, the emergency officially ended, I think a few weeks ago. I think Biden lifted it. That was a lot. That was an avenue that was used to get additional expenditures.
Yep.
So this bill here is getting rid of that. So that's what the big argument is. And typically, I think it's a conservative bill. So I think the tobacco stuff being thrown in there is because when you make these kinds of bills, you throw some stuff in there to get people to vote for it. So I think that's probably why it was thrown in there. So maybe a year from now, you might look back at it. It might be edited. It might be gone. It might be stuff added to it. Pipes might be on it. Who knows? But right now, it's early stages, so it's not like nothing to get excited about. But I think it's good to see the demeanor of at least like the federal government in D.C., like with how cigars and premium tobacco and hopefully pipe tobacco following shortly thereafter is getting more favored. And this bill here, from what I would assume is a conservative bill, is at least including the language that we're looking for. So
I have to ask, and it's like, if you aren't entirely sure, like no feelings one way or the other, is this tied into the whole current thing that's always in the news recently with the debt ceiling debate? Like, is that?
No, I mean, this is
I didn't get that impression.
I can answer that question just because, like, I'm in law school and I can kind of. So the debt ceiling debate, like, it is a lot
I'm
of
in
people.
law school, and therefore I can answer that
A
question.
lot of
Pat
people.
Chamberlain Esquire.
I think a lot of people are talking about this, and I think people are actually going to be interested to hear this. So, so basically, this happens every time they're going to raise the debt ceiling. They're always going to do it. So, the big argument that you hear of the president and then the legislative branches is basically spending is law, and law is the legislature. Separation of powers. The president can't enact law. He only enforces law. So then the legislature is like, well, if we don't increase the spending, you can't do anything about it. But then Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which most people don't typically know this because obviously everyone knows 14th Amendment is equal protection, but the third, there's actually an amendment, third section of it, where it says that, I forget the exact legal language of it, but it's basically like the debts of America will not be unpaid, basically, by any means. So it basically enables any branch of the government to make sure we pay debts, which is where the president can basically say, I'm going to raise a debt ceiling.
Well,
So that, and then it's always just a political pissing match because it's just a political argument that they make just so they look good. So, but it's always going to get raised because of that section. So.
Well, it's already money that's already been committed and promised. It's not to spend more money. It's to honor the obligations that have already been set.
Yeah,
right?
so
Yep.
it's always going to pass. That's why whenever it gets everyone watching this show, if it ever gets talked about again, now you know not to listen to it because it's going to happen no matter what. So
The camera's over there. You're pointing. There you go.
I'm pointing to my
Which
general-
camera?
Hello.
Dan, how's that Nicaraguan cigar?
This Nicaraguan so good. It's so good, Kaz. I just wish it were from Honduras because I really like Hondurans.
Oh my
I'm
God.
about to make you really happy.
Say it isn't so. So, how long of a process is it from this point to whether or not that bill actually passes?
God knows.
Yep.
I
only
would say like development maybe a year, but I would usually.
Well, I mean, this is a budget thing. I mean, there's got to be a time limit. Their
I'd
budget
say-
has to run out at some point.
I'd say like within a year.
It has to be approved. The budget has to be approved.
I'd say within a year, definitely before the next election.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is going to be setting up the standard for the next term.
Okay.
God help us.
And it is, does this really look like, that some of the government is like looking at what the FDA has been doing and spending its time with and saying, it's probably not the best use of your time to spend it doing this and this.
Well, apparently they can't do anything about the FBI, so they might as well shit on the FDA.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's
And
probably.
the ATF and the CIA.
I mean,
Well,
the
that's
thing-
another show for another time.
if you read closely into it, it could just be like if you look at like maybe it's foreshadowing what's going to happen with the deeming rule argument. Like trying to ban these things and marketing to kids and everything. Like maybe it's the government's like, don't use this money to redo that because you wasted all this time and money on it and it's stupid. Maybe that's why it's in there. Maybe it's just because there's a couple Republicans in there that want to smoke cigars and they like acid Cubas. I don't know, but I think
Possible.
it could potentially be foreshadowing
That's what Biden's
what
I mean,
Yeah.
their
there's a lot of-
observation of this litigation's been.
There's a lot of ground to base that on, though, as far as if that's the position they want to take, because Judge Mehta, who has been the judge that has overseen a lot of the challenges to these deeming regulations that came forward in 2016, has thrown a lot of it out because it was arbitrary and overreaching, and I mean, it was basically a carte blanche push, and it was seen as such.
And like, I mean, I can just give like, like a law student's like 2-second explanation for the standard there. I mean, I did environmental law, but all the agencies function similarly. So I haven't read like the case for the deeming rules, so maybe this may or may not be applicable, but it's the standard the Supreme Court set for these agencies. So there's something called, well, there's two things. One is you have the APA, which is what they brought this
seconds is
action
up.
under. the Administrative Procedure Act. So basically, that allows citizens and people to bring actions in
Right.
court against the administration's overreaching. So there is a formal comment period that they have to answer, and that's what the battleground is here,
Right.
because they didn't answer sufficiently, like the threat to the minors. So that's why it's even in here. So then the other thing is like the Chevron deference, and typically courts will tell you that it's on separation of powers. The judiciary doesn't have the means to be able to interpret statutes when these agencies have the experts that are fair to interpret statutes and see what's good for, how to carry out the congressional intent of the regulations that are in place. So the Chevron deference basically is that the court's not going to interpret a statute so far as the agency's response to it's reasonable and that Congress hasn't spoken on point on the issue. So I don't even think we're going to get that far. I think this is literally just the comment period, and I do think it's going to get vacated. I don't think it's going to get vacated and remanded back for editing. I think it's going to get vacated completely.
Which is going to be vacated? The deeming rule or
The deeming rule.
The deeming rule,
Yep.
yeah. I'm hoping that's what happens.
I mean, I'm not in law school like Pat, but
But I smoke cigars.
my layman's perspective, being in the industry, it inclines me to think that's the case.
Yeah.
And even if it gets vacated and then remanded back, then it's just going to... I don't think the FDA is going to even deal with it, because they have to answer the comment about not like that cigars are adults. There's certain ways to use them. Children don't use them this way. Children don't know how to use them. Blah, blah. And one, they're not. This big research report that came out like a year and a half ago, I think, was their hope for it, and it basically concluded that it's not a threat to minors. I even if it gets remanded back, I don't think the FDA is going to touch it, because it's like, what else can you really do if you can't use in a broad term of cigar, which could be a backwood or any tobacco wrapped product, then I don't think the FDA is going to really get specific, and they're not going to spend the resources on like the 1% of the 100% problem with tobacco, like jewels, vapes, cigarettes, and everything. So I think either way, it's going to be favorable to us, but obviously vacating it's just going to allow us to kind of have a little bit more reprieve. So
Yeah.
Minors aren't spending $10 to $15 on a cigar to do whatever with, or pipe tobacco.
No.
It's not a thing, and their own research, as you said, proved that.
Yep. There's really no interest in that. Mm-hmm. What are our final thoughts here on the Kochka 149?
I think it's a shame that once the tobacco's gone, it's gone, because this is a really
Yes,
good,
that
really
was
good
my
cigar.
thought
Yep.
exactly. Like, I don't want this to be over. This is,
Well, you can go down and buy another cigar.
well, I'm talking about the show. Final thoughts. I'm not even halfway done with this thing.
yeah, you just have to do a pipe, huh?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
We have Kaz on the show. We have to do a pipe.
You don't have to, but it'd be nice.
Absolutely. It would be delightful.
I'm going to pull Pat.
I'm just
smoke a
happy to
cigar
be
for the
here,
rest of the show.
Oh yeah.
No, great.
Danny, what do you think about the cigar, man? Now that
Great. It's a
you've
great.
had it.
Did you know it's under urn?
I'm usually
Dave,
more
when you
on
pull
top
up
of
a
this
map
stuff.
of Central America, unlabeled, I want you to find Honduras on a map.
We could do that later.
It's right there. It's right there.
There it is.
That's the map. It's right there.
If Florida was here, Honduran would be here.
Honduras.
That's Cuba.
Honduras.
Just
No,
no,
it's-
Cuba.
That's-
Honduran.
that's-
Now you
That's
look.
Cuba.
Anyways,
All right.
continue, please.
Well, we still look
Nicaragua's right
intelligent.
Here's
There's the Panama Canal.
my thoughts.
Oh boy.
It's a really, really good cigar.
Absolutely.
It's smooth. It's creamy. It's got a lot of flavor to it. It's medium plus, I think, as far as body goes.
Yeah.
I think it's medium as far as strength goes.
Yep.
And it is pairing fantastically with the Diplomatico rum.
Yeah.
The rum's bringing out the best things in the cigar, and the cigar is bringing out a lot of that sweetness in the rum. It's a great pairing.
Yeah, I totally have to agree with that. I think this pairing is spot on.
Yeah. It's for me, it's surprising. I didn't think when you guys said that we were gonna have
Have rum, right? I was just like, what?
I
you
was-
guys on crack? Like, that's,
well, not that far, Dave, but I mean,
I
But I wouldn't picture when I first had the smoke. I was like, okay, well maybe a nice single malt Scotch would be ideal with this, like a Glenfiddich or maybe a Belvini would be, the Caribbean cast would be, wonderful with this. But having it with the rum, it's that, and then like what I'm getting, the finish is way more chocolatey than I ever expected, and I'm in love with it. It's not overpowering. It's like almost a match made in heaven here. It's crazy
I
good.
love a good Scotch. I'm more of a Highland guy than like an Islay or low. Like I like just a little peat. But just so you know my credentials here.
Just a little peat.
Just a wee little peat. Just a little bit. Just a little bit of smokiness.
Little peaty.
I like Scotch.
Yeah.
I love Irish whiskey, but I am a rum guy. And I think rum does not get the attention it deserves, especially as a cigar pair.
I agree. I totally agree with that.
But also, if you, I'm sure you guys caught that, if you accidentally ash yourself, like the ash cleans up remarkably well.
You've done that a lot.
Is that because it's Honduran?
It's not a dirty ash. It's a clean ash.
Yeah.
It's a clean ash.
I was able to just like get that ash off the suit, no problem, with minimal issue.
Minimal flickery.
That's good. That's good.
Pat, what do you think, brother?
I liked it a lot. I mean, after smoking the cigar, I think like a rum probably would actually popped in my head because with my experience with the cigar, like it has a lot of those like woody bitter notes to it. It does have like that chocolatey sweetness, but not even just rum, but like something that's really like kind of a sweet finish. Like even like there's some bourbons that come to my mind. Like our Weller Antique, I think would have went really well with it. But something with a nice kind of, and I think the sugar cane sweetness from the rum definitely points out to what I would look for a pairing for this. But
Totally brings out the chocolate.
I mean, I think the versatility of this cigar, like there's really a lot of different spirits or non-alcoholics you could drink with this, and it would be an enjoyable cigar. So it's it's another clean, because a lot of Plasencias they're clean, right? Like it's just like it doesn't like I could smoke this cigar and then smoke a mild cigar after, and my palate wouldn't be torched. Like it's just Plasencias are just very clean finished cigars. So
now, question for you, because you said it was so versatile. Would you do a tequila with it? And what tequila comes to mind, sir?
I would do a reposado with
I was about to say that.
The 724.
Our
double back.
reposado,
that has a really incredible smooth finish.
That would
it has a little bit of sweetness in there, and I think it would bring out. I think the cigar would bring out a little bit more sweetness in the tequila, and it would. That's gonna probably be my next thing to try that and see how that goes. Because I'm not really a big tequila guy. The 724 tequila is kind of on another level, versus unless you're going to like a Don Julio 1929 or something like that, or anything of like a really top shelf tequila. But I mean, that tequila I would love to smoke with. Well,
on paper, the beer that 603 and I are brewing would go well with this cigar.
Yeah, what are the tasting
on
notes
paper?
On that? On paper.
It's on paper.
You find out.
Oh,
So like I know you're talking about just straight like neat tequila.
yeah.
But I am not a huge tequila guy. I'm not opposed to it. It's just not my spirit of choice.
Yeah.
But smoking this, I can't help but think if you're familiar, there's a cocktail I love, like crafted, like well-crafted cocktails.
Sex on the Beach?
No.
Fuzzy nipple.
El Diablo.
What is in an El Diablo?
Lime juice, reposado, creme de cassis, and it's got a slight ginger beer floater.
Interesting.
And it would pair very well with this because it's slightly sweet. But
maybe the lime would maybe throw it off for me.
It's not a lot. It's just enough to counteract the really sweetness from the creme de cassis, which is pretty jammy.
Yeah.
But when he said reposado, like that's the first thing that popped in my head because I've had that neat, and that would work very well with this. But if you're looking for a cocktail, I think an El Diablo would go very well with this.
Interesting.
All right. So we're going to switch over to pipe tobacco now. And this is where Kaz's expertise really comes in.
Goodbye,
You got your
I
pipe,
love
Kaz?
I do have a pipe.
You should use it.
You didn't give me any tobacco, though.
It's over there somewhere.
There you go.
Thank you.
Guys, you need me to look up what tobacco's in this, or do you got it?
No, I know what tobacco is in this.
It's all from Florida.
It's all from Florida. It's all Florida sun-grown tobacco.
No, it's actually
It's not
all.
going to be available because the crops were just destroyed by hail.
No, it's all Nicaraguan. This is a Nicaraguan Puro tobacco.
I'm
What do you
so
got there?
ashamed.
There. What pipe you got there, Pat?
Christmas.
That is a St. Nicholas 2019 or 2020.
Is that a 320?
19 sounds right. I got it when
Is
I
that a
first
7
started.
LE 320?
Yeah.
It is a 320.
Seems pretty similar to mine, baby. My camo 320. I love this
Look at
thing.
that. I could barely even see it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know. I don't even know what I have in my hand right now.
So from the Laudisi
That is-
website,
A 320 camouflage.
It's a joke because it's camouflage. So you don't know what. Thank you, Kaz.
Gawith
Is this a
Hogarth.
bad time to tell you that I'm autistic?
What?
That was really mean.
That
What?
was really mean.
Well,
What?
at least you don't have to wear an orange jacket when you go hunting because your hair.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true.
Oh god, I have a bad feeling this is not gonna light today. We should have dried this out like 100 years ago.
Gawith Hogarth and Co.'s Ennerdale mixture is a ready rub version of their iconic Ennerdale Flake, a classic Lakeland pipe tobacco. Ennerdale mixture features a foundation of Virginias from Brazil, Zimbabwe, and Malawi, with the addition of Malawi burley, which further elevates the blend's natural tobacco flavors. And there's a distinctive casing of almond fruit and vanilla, offering a delightful room note.
So I will go further to say that there's also a few more botanicals on this. There's a little bit of geranium and heliotrope.
Heliotrope? Heliotrope?
Which is a flower. This
What the heck is heliotrope?
it's a flower.
Where is it grown? Indonesia?
I
the
don't
ground.
I don't know. The name is Greek. Helio.
Nicaragua.
Helio is Greek for
It's in
sun.
Nicaragua.
Nicaraguan hunter.
But
Nicaragua.
so this harkens back. These flavors are all botanical or floral in nature, and this harkens back to the old English purity laws, which limited flavorings on tobacco. And a lot of people are under the misconception that the old English purity laws on tobacco were a result of like trying to prevent flavorings to mass substandard tobacco, which is not true at all. It is because a lot of suppliers were overhydrating tobacco with water. And so when you would purchase tobacco is almost always, excluding cigars, pipe tobacco is almost always purchased by weight. Well, if it's overhydrated, you're paying for water that you're going to have to dry out before you can smoke it. And so a lot of these flavorings were extracted through alcohol, like tinctures, or a lot of what the flavorings you use in culinary, like vanilla extract, which everybody has in their pantry,
Yeah.
is alcohol based. And it's because that alcohol flashes out, the moisture leaves, and it just leaves the flavoring behind.
Right.
So you're talking like Victorian era tobacco, which were often floral in nature. So you have a very floral character. Some people love, some people hate. I absolutely love it. It's unique. And it's honestly amazing that we still have it around today.
So that's what, when people say that Lakeland essence, it's those floral toppings that you mentioned that is referring to.
Absolutely. That's the Lakeland style. And
Okay.
if you're not familiar what Lakeland means in context of English tobacco, there is an area in the UK called the Lake District, which is known for having, of course, many lakes. It's in the northwest corner of England. So if you think largely in the county of Cumbria, city of Kendal, which is where Gawith Hogarth's based. Liverpool is either in the Lake District or near it, and most people know of Liverpool.
Okay.
So that gives you an idea. In fact, a lot of the tobacco that early on in Gawith Hogarth's history that they used that was imported from, as you said, Brazil, Africa, it came through a port in Liverpool.
Okay.
So you have that that context there, and I think to this day that's still where they receive it through. So the Virginia base, it's going to be very grassy, hay-like, slight citrus sweetness. You get a little bit of nuttiness and woodiness from the burley, and then you have these really interesting floral components. The geranium, most people would probably identify that as a rose-like flavor. The almond gives it a really like pastry sweetness. And then there's just this slight like honeysuckle flavor, which I equate to the heliotrope, which is just a yellow run-of-the-mill garden flower that a lot of people have.
I got a lot of
Heliotrope.
Yeah, a lot of heliotrope.
I got a lot of heliotrope. I wonder if Mandy has any heliotrope in her garden.
Probably.
Got everything else growing.
Why don't you should live call her right now and ask her.
So this is like
Now-
very floral, sweet, almost like I'm smoking a Cavendish almost. It's weird, almost like it's like for me it's almost smoking an aromatic but not smoking an aromatic. It's just weird.
That's
a lot
one thing
going
that
on.
It's
lot
a
going on
struggle
there.
to explain this to someone who has never smoked a Lakeland, or in my case, dealing with brick and mortar retailers who have never carried it. It's like they'll ask, "Is this an aromatic?" I'm like, "Is it flavored?" Absolutely. Your guy who's buying like vanilla Cavendish is just as likely to like it or hate it as your guy who's buying a heavy English.
Yeah.
Like it's one of those. It's its own category. So
It's weird.
Yeah. So it's one of those things that that you're either gonna like or not.
Yeah.
It's very perfumey and incensey.
Herbal. Yeah.
Herbal and like I'm hesitant to use this word because it has all sorts of connotations and it might turn some people off, but it's still accurate. There's kind of like a potpourri sort of aspect to it.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, like you get these like
If I'm back at my mother's house when she's doing the whole potpourri thing. Potpourri, whatever.
Potpourri.
Potpourri, whatever.
Potpourri.
But there's a lot of complexities there, and there's some earthy, and then you get sweet, then you get floral. Yeah, man,
Now it's true though that what Kaz said, this Lakeland essence is a lot of people summarize this as either love it or you don't. It's
like
there's-
Latakia in some extent.
There's no real middle ground to it. I hear people, they pick and choose what they. I've heard people say they will only buy Samuel Gawith because it doesn't have that Lakeland essence crap in it, and
Oops.
and some people have described it. It smells like your grandma's soap. And
So-
and yet, so why is there, why do you think this particular flavor is so polarizing?
I mean, it's a lot like anything as far as that's scented. So, like, if you look at the perfume or the candle industry, like, there are some people who absolutely love patchouli, and there are people who
Okay.
cannot stand patchouli. Like, it's not good or bad. It's a matter of preference. And honestly, that makes it no different than any other pipe tobacco. That's why, like, while it has nothing in common with Latakia as far as its flavor notes, as far as like guys love heavy Englishes or they don't.
Right.
Like it's that sort of thing. It's either your bag or it's not. I think that like I was drawn to it immediately the first time I tried it. I still remember it was 2014 that an older guy in my pipe club like gave me a bag of Gawith Hogarth Kindle Flake, which is similar to Ennerdale. And I immediately loved it. But you drew up a thing because a lot of people like Samuel Gawith, Gawith Hogarth, they conflate these two brands, and That's fine. I mean, the Gawith of Gawith Hogarth was a descendant of Samuel Gawith,
Yeah.
but they had very different approaches to pipe tobacco, and it wasn't a preference thing. It was that Samuel Gawith inherited his company from his father-in-law, Thomas Harris, who
Right.
started it in 1792. So you're talking 18th and early 19th century style of pipe tobacco. Gawith Hogarth broke off. It was, I forget the first name of the Gawith who broke off, but it was a Gawith and a trustee of Samuel Gawith, Henry Hogarth, who founded Gawith Hogarth in the 1860s, I believe. So you're talking just before and into the early days of the Victorian era. So the tobacco they produced was what was in vogue during Queen Victoria's reign. So honestly, they go hand in hand. Like, if you want to smoke a historical tobacco that was from like colonial days, smoke Samuel Gawith, and then if you want to move forward into the future, into the height, the zenith of the British Empire and the Victorian era, smoke Gawith Hogarth. Like that, they both have something to offer, but they're very different. And that floral nature is still very much alive today in other brands and such that are popular in the UK. But I don't think it's unfair to say that Gawith Hogarth that like corners the market, and they're the originals.
Yeah. All right. Let me take a moment to do our 724 flashback. Flashback of the day of the week. The 724 flashback is a weekly segment highlighting historical events, brought to you by 724 Cigars. Smoke a piece of history. And today's flashback is that 31 years ago today was Johnny Carson's final appearance on The Tonight Show.
Really?
After 30 years of hosting that show, he retired 31 years ago to the day today. And how many of you, did any of you, see Johnny Carson at all when he was on TV?
I remember my grandfather watching it all the time. He loved it, and I back then I was too young, and he was probably watching reruns at the time. But I mean, I still remember him watching some.
How old are you, Nick?
38.
So I'm 33. So I'd have been 31 years ago when Carson retired. So if I saw it, I have no memory of it.
Yeah. Well, we have a little. I have a little snippet here that I'm gonna play for everybody, or more accurately, have Dave play for everybody. And this is a snippet of him interviewing George Burns. And George Burns walks in with a cigar, and Johnny starts talking to him about his cigar smoking habits. It's really hilarious. Let's watch. It's about 40 seconds. It's not that much.
There it is.
I hope they did. That was a good show.
Oh, my
Appreciate the
goodness.
confidence, Dave.
Well, there you have it. But, I'm old enough that I remember the Johnny Carson show and everything. And I don't know that I saw that particular episode, but that snippet with him interviewing George Burns about cigars and hasn't your doctor told you this is bad for you? He's dead.
Yeah. I think he famously outlived 2 or 3 of his doctors.
He did.
Yeah. They all told him to stop smoking, and he just kept smoking. And
Outlived
yeah,
them all.
he when did George Burns kick the bucket?
He was over 100 years old.
Yeah, it was 101, 102.
Yeah, he made that 100th. He did that 100-year-old show in London. I know he did that. But nuts, crazy.
Smoking like 10, 12 cigars a day.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys watch late night TV at all?
No.
No. Do you even know what late night TV is?
No.
Do you know what late night TV is, Cass?
Late night TV for me is watching the chickens on my
So are
on
you
my-
talking like the Tonight
Late
Show?
Show.
And
So
and stuff like that. To
I
me,
have.
to me, the whole idea,
Not how it used to be.
once he retired,
Yeah.
you had Jay Leno come on. And,
I was going to say, it was Jay Leno after him.
But even that was, just things just started to decline.
Yeah, well,
And
everything was...
now I think everybody, it's one of those things where all those kind of variety show things,
Yeah.
they've just gotten more and more humdrum.
Less
Well,
variety.
it's
Less variety and more what's the word for it?
Sterile.
politically
Yeah,
involved.
sterile. Sterile's the word I'm looking for. It was the same thing over and over and over again. And what worked in the 70s and 80s and 90s was not going to work in the 2000s, 2010s. But it's interesting to me that none of us sitting here, and this is not necessarily a great cross section of America, but the five of us here do not watch those types of shows. And I grew up with that type of show.
Right.
And,
But that was, again, so Danny, how old are you?
53.
You're 53.
Yes.
I'm 38.
Sorry.
Okay. But back then there was no Netflix. There was no internet.
Nope.
There was no, okay, we can watch it. We can, pull up Amazon.
It's the only thing they had.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. But
yeah.
that's what you had.
You
But
had
that's
5 channels.
right. But my grandfather was the same way. My grandmother was the same way. My aunts and my mother were the same way. You know what I mean? You had to get real entertainment. That was the entertainment back then. It was watching Johnny Carson. And then after that was Jay Leno. And that's why Jay Leno was so dominant back then, because that's what it was. That was the height of the television, like SNL.
Yeah.
Back then, when you had Dan Aykroyd and you had the newcomers of Adam Sandler and David Spade, Chris Farley, all those guys. That was TV back then.
Yeah.
Now you have everything wants to be on Netflix. You want to be on Amazon Prime and Plex and everything else, and everybody has easy access to the games and to TV and everything. And it's not like how it was before, where that everybody has these avenues of entertainment. Back then, Johnny Carson was the peak of entertainment television.
I would agree, but I would also state that nothing has come close to that.
Absolutely not.
Since,
The majority of those shows that I have watched, like any late shows or something like that, have all been off of YouTube.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's all reruns. It's all stuff that was aired in the early 80s or the early 90s and stuff like that. Like, nothing can compare to that, because TV was so dominant back then for entertainment. You know what I mean? And then HBO came along, and then Netflix came along after that, and then the internet the boom and everything. So you can watch movies, you can watch shows, and you don't have to wait 7 o'clock. We all got to sit down and watch this. You don't have to do that anymore, and everybody's spread out, and everybody's on their phones, and everybody's on their laptops, and everything.
You're also
like that.
not bound by the airtime.
True.
I can
Correct.
stream anything I want
Anytime.
at any time. I don't have
And anywhere.
Yes, I don't have to go. Oh, shit! The late night show is going to air at 11.
gotta get home.
I've got to get home.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's like, oh,
Right.
I'll watch it in the morning.
I
Like,
mean, how many? I watch a lot of older movies. But how many older movies do you ever hear in the script of the movie? Oh, honey, we got to get home. Carson's gonna be on, or Leno's gonna be on. We got to get home. We got to watch that. And that was a family event. That was a family thing. We rarely have those moments anymore.
No. Do you think that has a lot to do with the decentralizing of the entertainment structure thing?
Yeah.
With, we've gone from 4 channels to 500 channels.
Oh, probably
We have
even more than
all,
that.
Now all of which have very questionable entertainment on them at all.
Yeah, exactly.
You
You got like half the channels, so you got like DirecTV or other channels and stuff like that, and they go up to 1,000 channels. And
Or you're like me, and I have no channels. I stream everything.
There
Like
you go.
Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max. Like,
Yep.
I don't pay for cable. I stream.
yeah,
I'm probably
same
paying
way
as
at my house.
much as a person who pays for cable. But
And it's funny too how my kids have no idea what it's like to come to the season finale cliffhanger of a show and have to wait 4 months or 5 months before they see what happens next. They have no idea.
Yep.
And the only exception to that is some of these shows
The Star
that you
Wars
can
ones,
stream now that it airs and then it's available to stream. One of my watch with my 17-year-old this show Yellow Jackets on Showtime, and we'd stream through to the last current episode that had aired, and it was over until next week. And Ray, my daughter, nearly flipped out. She was like, "That's it? That's where the whole thing ends?" "No, honey, it's still on the air. You have to wait till next Monday." "What do you mean I have to wait till next Monday?"
Exactly.
my
And see,
God.
that's so like I'm what they call an elder or a geriatric millennial. So I remember having to come back.
when?
I remember coming back every week and having to watch a show, and you had to wait a week to find out what happens next. Like I lived that. I understand that. Half of my life was that.
Yeah.
But it is amazing how in the past just like 5 or 6 years, I can't do that anymore. Like a show that I really want to see or one that I've been watching and the next season comes out, I won't watch anything until the whole season's out because I no longer have the ability to watch it at a slow drip. I've got to be able to binge it.
Yeah, I mean that's
I can't.
that's the possibility of Netflix and Plex and Showtime and Disney Plus and the whole thing, and you don't have to wait you don't have to wait weeks or months at a time. You can just wait until the whole season's out, watch the whole season, and then eventually you'll have to wait for the next season, but then you wait for the whole season to come out or drop, or then you just watch the whole thing. You just binge it on a Saturday. You know what I mean? Just binge it on a Saturday.
Really, that's what I've done for the past, like, gosh, I said 5 or 6 years, but like really 10 years. The first show that I was like, I can't wait for a slow trickle like that, I think was like maybe House of Cards or something when it was still on. And it's like I can't do this slow burn. Like I've got to be able to watch it at my leisure. So I'm gonna wait like so many weeks and just like watch it.
Yep. And we are spoiled in that aspect, man.
Yes.
I mean, like, man, I remember growing up I remember when I couldn't, my mother wouldn't let me go to the movies to see a movie. And I had to wait months, 6 or 7 months between it coming from the movie theater onto an HBO or even an FX or something like that.
What about DVD?
It was crazy.
VHS, years.
Blockbuster.
Yeah.
And
my
forget
God.
asking me to watch something with commercials.
Oh, forget about it. Oh my God. But that was the beauty of it, because you would sit there, watch a movie or a show, and then when the commercial came on, everybody like fanned out and spread out to do their thing. They get popcorn. They had to go to the bathroom.
Yep.
Or they had to go downstairs. They had to let the dog out for 5 minutes and then come back in. Yeah, man. It was. Those days. You don't have anything like that anymore.
We never had a DVR or TiVo or any of that growing up
we
either.
never had
We
that.
always had to wait.
Yep.
No. Or how about like recording? What me and my brother used to do is when the movie or the show came on, would have the
Record it on
VHS,
VHS.
and
We did that.
record the show and then stop the tape when it went to commercial.
Yeah.
And then record
Cut
it.
out the commercial.
Yeah, so we didn't have to watch the commercial, man. Oh my God, me and my brother used to do our own VHS mixtapes. So we used to put on MTV, and back then when they had music videos on MTV, none of this political bull crap now, that we used to record music videos on VHS and just do the music videos, and then on Sunday,
Jazzy Jeff.
yeah, and then when we had to clean on Sunday mornings, with my mother would put the tape in and would just run the tape for like 2-3 hours and stuff. Back then, that was old school right there, man.
Yep.
You had to work for your entertainment.
Yeah, man. Oh my God.
I had that thought today, like on the flight up here, as I'm listening to Spotify, and it's like
Everything's still on
even
demand.
10 years ago, like Kaz would have gone like, what? Like you could
Yeah.
just like pull any music you want through your phone.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. I got in trouble with Napster. That whole thing. Oh my
Or don't get me
God.
started on LimeWire.
Oh my God,
Right,
bro.
baby.
They sent letters
Fair
to my
share.
mother. They sent the 56K dial-up. Oh, Jesus.
It'll take 31 years for this to download.
I know, right? AOL. Oh my God.
I remember when it used to take me like 40 minutes to burn a CD.
Oh, forget about it, man. That was the beginning of the end right there. That was the beginning of the end. So how about we digress and get back to the tobacco, because I'm very upset with this tobacco right now.
So back from 2023 to like
Why?
1887.
Yeah.
You gotta shut up.
No, I haven't lit. One, the rum's gone.
Well,
Why?
that's your
Why
problem.
is the rum gone?
Because
You're an
Nick,
alcoholic.
I'm not an alcoholic. It's just they didn't give me enough.
Well, that's true.
I'm
You
not
don't
an
go to
alcoholic.
meetings.
I just drink a lot
I drink my
all
fair
the
share.
time.
One, the alcohol that I had left wasn't holding up to the tobacco. The rum was great in itself, and the tobacco was great in itself. But it was not. It was definitely. It was meshing together. It was trying to become something that it wasn't. I think the tobacco was a little bit too powerful as far as the flavor and the sweetness and the floral and a little bit of honey in there and the wood note. Great on its own. I would have to have something maybe a little bit more powerful than that to kind of calm it down. A nice bourbon to kind of calm the all that sweetness and complexities down, kind of tone it down a little bit, make it a little even on the palate. The rum isn't doing it. It wasn't doing it for me. It's gone now.
No,
but
that's totally fair. I like dark rum with Ennerdale because it brings out the floral notes within the rum. But the floral notes within the rum, admittedly, are much more subtle than they are in the tobacco.
Right.
That's something that I personally enjoy. But I mean, there are darker rums than Diplomatico that might hold up a little bit better.
Yeah.
I think that guys who might have tried a Lakeland style tobacco, or particularly Ennerdale, that didn't like it at first blush, I would encourage them to give it a second try. It's not like if you're looking for a Virginia flake or an aromatic, this probably isn't going to scratch that itch. Like it's hard to define it. It escapes being boxed in like that. It's its own category.
It's kind of like a wild horse that you're trying to tame.
Exactly. And it's also it's all but forgotten genre of pipe tobacco. So it's something that someone's going to want, for them to enjoy it, they're going to want something different that they haven't had before.
This is definitely different. I mean, it's kind of an aromatic, but not an aromatic. It's like a Virginia, but not a Virginia.
Like a Cavendish, but not a
Yeah,
Cavendish.
Oriental, but not Oriental.
Yeah.
But it's weird and wild. I like the tobacco on itself because there's so much going on, and you kind of really have to focus your
I
palate.
think it's refreshingly different.
It is. I'm not saying that it's not, and I'm not. By any means, I'm not bashing the tobacco or the rum because I like them separately. I love them both separately, but together it was not for me. It just wasn't there for me.
Pat, you've been awfully quiet this half of the show.
Well, he's only 22 years old, so
I don't
you know,
watch TV.
he can't really comment on
Yeah,
the 80s.
he just owns a tablet.
He's important and studying law.
He is important. I'm not saying he's not important. He's just most of the stuff that we were talking about happened in the 80s, and he was not born. He wasn't even a twinkle in his father's eye at that point. Maybe he was. Maybe they were practicing. I don't know. They wanted to make a perfect child. I don't know. Pat is nearly perfect in my eyes, Pat. I love you, bud.
Thank you.
Dave.
I can't say anything after that.
Oh, come on.
I really enjoy the pipe tobacco. I think just because of its Oriental roots.
English roots. There's no Oriental in it. There's no Cavendish in it.
Is it
There's
Nicaraguan?
there's no Nicaraguan
You get a
tobacco
lot of
in
floral
it.
from
The
Oriental,
tobacco
so
is
it's got
100% Nicaraguan, Dave.
Nicaraguan roots.
It smokes like
Reaching me.
Honduran,
It's
though.
reaching me.
It does, yeah. Maybe some Indonesian in there, maybe?
Smoke's Dominican to me.
No. Cuban, maybe. Touch of Cuban.
No, Dominican definitely.
The
Maybe
botanical aspects remind me of Orientals. Okay, so I'll just say that.
Orientals can have a floral component to their flavor. I get what you're saying there.
I like it.
You like it?
That's our
That's the
conversation
most-
before the show.
That's the most
You
you've
anticipated
spoken.
hating it, so like I'm really happy because I've known guys who like I describe it like, oh, that sounds awful, like you, and then like they try it and they're like, oh, this is good, and I know guys that like were intrigued and like, no, I don't like this at all.
I think it's because you describe it like shit.
I think that my descriptive abilities
God damn.
surpass
Expectations?
your ability to comprehend.
Ooh, big words. Got big words going on now.
No, I think it's good. I mean, it's I'm not a big like aromatic person. I don't really like anything too sweet, so I thought it was gonna be really sweet, but
Yeah, it's not super sweet at all.
No.
it's like interesting because I think like just like the mouthfeel episode, I think. But I think all those botanicals kind of like it does leave like a lot of residue on your
It
palate
lingers on the palate for sure.
for a lot, but it's weird because like the way that I so my enjoyment from it came from the aroma. So I think why I liked it so much was I'll just give an example because it's probably easier to explain it this way. Like I remember when I was younger, I went for a hike in the
2
woods
years ago. Stop.
and no, I was probably in like middle school, and like there was like an endangered plant called like the lady slippers, and there's like this childhood scent that I remember because like there's one little area like in my woods that would always have like a couple of them, and I would go out there, and if you smelt it, it had like kind of like a rose kind of floral scent to it. But then it was like such
As
flowers do.
frolicking through the forest. To go
But it was
find
a really,
speckled
it was
flower
a
and be
potent scent, and like when you would smell, and like if you smell any flower
Pat
for the most
perfecting his
part,
palate.
like if you smell a flower and then you're like out in nature, like it like opens your sensories up and you start
Opens your
smelling
mind, man.
more. You know what I mean? Like you start noticing like the smell of like leaves, wood, like the fresh one and everything. So with this pipe tobacco, I think those botanicals kind of opens my sensories up. And then the aroma from the smoke going through my nose is where I get a lot of those complexities from it.
And so, shameless plug here. I know it's my job to pitch and sell this,
Yes.
but and there's evidence of this online, among with other things. So don't Google me.
Oh.
But
Oh boy.
but
Hello.
I have been a Gawith Hogarth fan long before I worked for Laldisi Distribution Group, and even longer before Laldisi Distribution Group distributed this product. So my credentials as a fanboy of Gawith Hogarth are well established. This, to me, is one of the ideal springtime tobaccos.
Yeah.
The Virginias have that light citrusy grass. You know, a lot of people smoke Virginias in the spring, but with that floral component, like on a just nice, temperate, sunny spring day, like this is, to me, springtime in your pipe.
I can totally agree with that.
Yeah, I concur. I definitely concur.
Mine's
Very
staying
good.
lit.
Is it?
All right. Well, there you go. That's
There you
the
go.
show.
What do you
Yep.
know?
Well, Cass, thanks for being with us tonight.
Again,
It was a pleasure to have you with us.
It's always a pleasure to be here.
You going to be here next week?
I don't know.
you should just move up here.
Offer me a job, we'll see.
Whoa. Hey now. Hey now.
All right. Well, thanks for being with us tonight. Hope you had a good time. And we'll see you next Monday, 8 o'clock.
And that's not
And that's not just blowing smoke.
Stay smoky, everyone.
You've been listening to Not Just Blowing Smoke, the podcast that brings the wealth of knowledge, expertise, and fun of Twins Smoke Shop, New England's premier smoke shop, right to you, wherever you are, whenever you want it. You can find us at our website, notjustblowingsmoke.com, and keep in touch with us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram at Not Just Blowing Smoke. Thanks for listening, everybody, and that is Not Just Blowing Smoke.
Rolling with the top down, smoking